Hello and welcome to another episode of the Connect Cape Fear podcast, a show where locals, travelers, and newcomers from all over come to find connection and community in this great place that we call home. I'm your host, Rob Rens. Today I'm joined by Clavadetscher, owner of PatchMaster drywall repair. Christian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me around.
PatchMaster, we're going to make a podcast out of talking about drywall.
Absolutely.
And we're going to make it fun for people,
It's going to be the
too.
most exciting, scintillating experience your visitors have ever had.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a good way to start it. Christian,
Yes, sir.
You've got a pretty cool background. You moved here from overseas.
That's right.
You're American, though, right?
I am American,
okay.
yes.
Might we get a little British accent in there every
If
once
it comes
in a
to,
while?
I'll apologize in advance.
Okay.
It does happen.
Okay, awesome. Well, how'd you get to Wilmington? Start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So my sister-in-law went to UNCW, and so she came down here, and when she graduated, she decided to stay. And this is kind of in the early to mid-'90s. And so coincidentally, my in-laws decided to be part of that wave of early retirees from the Northeast that came down. So they followed her down here.
The halfbacks, we call them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they've been here at this point for so long.
They're locals.
They're
right?
relatively local compared to the population now. That's right. But so they came down, and then you're right. I've been working as an investment banker, first on the commodity brokerage side and on the banking side, and was working in New York City, of course. And then we got moved to London, and we were there for 10 years. And then after kind of the tumult, global financial tumult of 2008, 9, and 10, that prompted massive global regulatory change, and the investment banks couldn't operate in the commodity markets the way they had been doing for hundreds of years. So I was in my early 40s and had to reinvent myself, and decided that despite the fact we were very comfortable and very happy living in the borough of Wandsworth in southwest London, we decided to come back to the U.S. But then that prompted the question: well, do we go back to New Jersey from whence my wife and I came, or do we go somewhere else? And of course, the in-laws were down here going, Wilmington's a really great place to live.
Yeah.
And indeed, my wife and kids would summer here, usually.
Yeah.
So we were very familiar with the place for sure. So we opted to come to the beach instead. And the first thing I got into when I got down here, first I tried to get a local job, and that was a dead end, because I would say,
what does an investment banker do?
What are futures and
12
options?
years ago?
What is a base metal? I got absolutely nowhere. But through an old school friend of mine, I did get involved in franchising.
Okay.
And initially, I was on the franchise sales side, so selling franchise systems to entrepreneurs. And frankly, I was miserable at it. I was not very good at it at all. I didn't enjoy it at all. But one of the brands I was selling was PatchMaster, and I just saw how well these businesses were doing, and indeed just the ubiquity of drywall. Wall ceilings, it's all drywall.
Yeah.
And really, for the foreseeable future, it's what it's going to continue to be. And then you pair that with the idea that Wilmington is just growing exponentially every year, so more and more people coming. And whilst there are, of course, production drywall companies in town that have been here for quite a long time, who will hang and finish an entire house, an entire neighborhood, an entire apartment complex, other than kind of the periodic handyman, there wasn't really anyone doing drywall repair. And I just thought, and then you pair that with the fact that we're in kind of the hurricane belt, and I thought, this is kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So I decided to buy my own franchise, and that's what I'm doing now for the last 3.5 years.
3.5 years. Have you?
Yes.
And you saw it. I guess maybe came right in as we've had the big population wave boom here, like COVID and beyond.
Right.
Has your business gone along with that?
Absolutely. We all see the construction that's continuing on, and it seems so it will continue unabated. So I'm very optimistic for what we do, for sure. At present, I've got 3 full-time employees, but of course, looking to grow and get bigger. I mean, we cover a territory that basically ranges from Sneads Ferry down to Oak Island. So we've got a lot of territory to work on. So that's the plan.
When people think drywall, at least when I saw it, you think new, right?
Yes.
Like, and you're right, everything is drywall. There's drywall everywhere, but drywall repair, not like immediately it popped in my head. Okay, storm recovery and
for
stuff.
Sure.
That's got to be a big part of your business. But who calls you? Like, what's the circumstance that somebody might be like? Well, I need to talk to.
Yeah, I got
Christian.
you. Yeah, well, it is all over the shop for sure, right? So. Popcorn ceilings, right? That big boom of construction here in the late 80s, early 90s, and a quick, cheap way to finish those ceilings.
Is that what it was? It was just cheap, and you could cover up mistakes with the framing or anything.
You could just throw on some tape and a coat of mud on that seam, and then spray the popcorn, and away you go, as opposed to properly finishing it. So, of course, with the boom of young people moving here, none of them want those ceilings anymore. So we're doing a lot of those popcorn removals, and then just over time, houses settle. So you'll get cracks at the corners of doorways and windows and things like that, or just seams in walls and ceilings for sure. And yes, the storm-related stuff, rain. Well, water just in general is a pernicious beast, I always say. And it's amazing how it can find its way into your home and leave stains and create mold in situations like that. And then we have the fun inquiries, right? So my favorite story is a couple of years ago, I'd gotten a request online. The customer said that she had a hole the size of an idiot's fist in her wall, and she needed that repaired, which we were happy to oblige. But, honestly, drywall, it sounds a bit banal and a bit boring, but the need for it is just, it's constant.
Yeah.
There's always things happening, in the early part of, like, say, spring and summer. Everyone's got their air conditioning units up on the top floor, right. And then those reservoirs overflow, and then you've got your ceilings all ruined. Yeah. We have relationships with quite a few trades in town, so the likes of West Shore Home, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, and countless others. And the plumbers in particular, we've got a lot of customers that they refer to us. Because, once again, in that building in the late 80s and early 90s, the plumbing was that polypropylene plastic.
Right.
Now all those things are starting to spurt, pin-sized leaks everywhere. Yeah. So they're repiping entire homes.
Yeah, they're cutting drywall
and
everywhere
they're cutting
they go.
Drywall left, right, and center, and they're having us come in to do those repairs.
Yeah.
But I think, as far as the customer experience is concerned, of course, there's a lot we can talk about there. Mm-hmm. To me, the fun and exciting part is, a hole in someone's drywall, whether it's been cleanly cut or it's the shape of an idiot's fist, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
And my guys are able to go in there and genuinely make it look as though there was never any damage there in the first place.
That's a craft. That's an art skill.
Right. It's more of an art than a trade, I like to say. And my guys are extremely talented and really good at what they do, and they really care about what they do. So it is fun being able to provide that service to people. Yeah. Because they just know how bad it looks, and then they just like to, I've had people call me up and say, I've just been staring at my smooth popcorn-free ceiling all afternoon long, or I'm still trying to find out where that hole was on the wall that the plumber had put in. So to be able to kind of give that customer experience is super, super gratifying.
You can definitely tell between a professional drywall patch job and, say, an amateur who's going to go get the screen thing and do the putty and try to sand it down, but you'll always see it.
For sure. Well, listen, we're regularly coming in behind either the DIY person or the service provider out there who's a handyman who may be really good at plumbing and electrical work, but maybe not so great on the drywall side of things, right? So again, it's really quite gratifying. Yeah,
I love it. Have you ever had an inquiry where it was like discreet, where they were like, hey, you can't, my spouse or my parents can't know.
I'll remind you that we live in a college town.
Yeah, right. Post college party.
I don't always ask about the circumstances that led to the damage in the first place.
Don't need to know. Yeah,
but there are.
It's drywall repair client privilege, right?
Precisely, and they tend to be kind of panic calls that come in on a Saturday or Sunday morning. Yeah. Or sometimes towards the end of the week because mom and dad are scheduled to be home on Saturday. Yeah. And can you come over here and help us get this taken care of? So yes, we've done a fair bit of that.
I'm seeing an ad that could be made for this.
The marketing possibilities around this.
I'll spill a story on myself. This is how dumb college kids are, and this was me at the time. My parents were in Italy for 2 weeks, and we had like 10 or 11 acres. This is in rural metro Atlanta at the time, and I had like probably 150 kids out in the field. And, we were having a party and stuff. Well, my one dumb friend, JJ Nye, if you see this, I'm still looking for you. He had like a 2000s Mitsubishi Eclipse and decided he wanted to burn out my dad's front lawn, right? And so he left like a tire mark strip that was like 15 feet long.
Wow.
Had I had you guys, this would have turned out better. I know you don't do grass.
No, right.
I went and bought green spray paint and thought I would just spray paint over it and nobody would ever notice. Spray paint doesn't really stick to dirt too well.
No, not for very long. And imagine the rain's not exactly your friend. But we do get calls from the parents too. Yeah. Particularly when they're footing the bill and it's time to move out at the end of the year. Right. I get a lot of parents ringing up saying, can you come and take care of this for us?
I'm sure Airbnbs, people who have VRBOs, things like that.
For sure.
Yeah, so you probably do commercial work too as well?
We do a fair bit of commercial. I must say we don't... I don't specifically target that, but they find me anyway. Mm-hmm. We've got a really strong online presence. We've worked really hard to have like a 5-star rating on Google and the over 200 reviews. And so it's not just homeowners that find us that way. Countless businesses in town have done the same thing. Kind of one of my favorite things to talk about Because not only is there drywall in this town, there's plaster, obviously, particularly in this part of town. There's a lot of plaster, and we do plaster repair as well. And as a matter of fact, the folks over at Thaling Hall called us in. We'd only been open for like 6 to 9 months, but the folks at Thaling had just gotten their money from FEMA post-Florence.
Oh, yeah.
And in I guess if it's Thaling Hall, it's the Grand Ballroom. If it's the city government, it's City Hall. But that big room with the 30-some-odd foot ceilings,
it's a great room.
All that plaster ceiling had been delaminated and really hurt by the water, and so they had us come in to redo that plaster ceiling for them.
Great call to get 6 months in business.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the guy I had working for me at the time, he had experience in roofing.
Okay.
So getting up on 4 racks of scaffolding, being 30 feet in the air, didn't bother him too much. Although I didn't sleep very well for those 2 weeks. But yeah, so that was a really fantastic experience.
Yeah.
And I've loved Thaling Hall. I've mentioned to you before that I volunteer for Cucalores every year. And the Thaling Hall is just the history and just the majesty of that theater is just magnificent. So
the next time this thought, just people walk into the Sistine Chapel and they'll look up and they'll go, "That's Michelangelo." Right. They walk into Thaling Hall, they'll look up and they'll go, "That's Christian Clavadetscher."
That's Christian Clavadetscher's PatchMaster business.
Go.
I made
Heard
it
it
look
here
good.
on
Absolutely.
Connect Cape Fear podcast.
Well done, sir.
I love it. So Cucalores,
Yes.
very, very popular film festival here in the Cape Fear region. Talk a little bit about your involvement with them. What do you love about it? You know, just run us down on that.
Well, when we arrived here 11 years ago, I mean, I was fascinated by just the fact there was a film industry to begin with, right? And I'm a bit of a strange Joe. One of my favorite films is Blue Velvet, David Lynch's Blue Velvet, which of course was shot here.
Yep.
So I wanted to get involved in the film industry, kind of one way or the other, even though I knew it wasn't something I could do full time.
Right.
And actually, my first idea was to develop a fund to fund North Carolina film production.
Okay.
And I'm going to come back to that someday.
Okay.
That's something I still have in mind.
We'll talk off air about that.
I really very much like to do that. But
yeah.
whilst I was networking and meeting people throughout town involved in the industry, of course, I discovered Cucalores. And it's just this fantastic program. It's really blossomed in the 10 years that I've been here.
Yeah.
So it's gone from being a spectacular film festival now to being also an incubator for young filmmakers. And the festival gets bigger and bigger every year, and more people come. It's gaining more notoriety as kind of one of the larger film festivals on the circuit, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
And so I just wanted to be involved. And so I've been doing screening coordination there for the last 10 some odd years. And I'm just the guy that at every screening, I'm just making sure that everything goes off without a hitch.
Yeah.
And then I'll do some question and answer with the filmmakers and things like that. So it's just wonderful to have that kind of creative energy.
Yeah.
And Cucalores really is just a magnet for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's just some great film that screens every year through the festival. So I just love being a part of it.
There's super talented people in Wilmington.
Very much so.
Crazy. Talk about, Josh and working with him and so many other people that I've got to meet through the work that I've done in media. It's just like the talent pool is so deep here in Wilmington. And it's a very important part of our local economy, our community, tourism and trade, all that stuff.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons having had the background in dealing with large macro hedge funds to begin with, the idea of creating a fund was really interesting to me because at that time, there were all kinds of politics getting involved and the film industry had left Wilmington for a while. And I just thought there was all this potential just sitting here, right? And people having to travel out of state to work. And I just thought, this is bananas.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be so reliant upon, politics in Raleigh or some culture war silliness to just mess everything up for everyone here, considering the foundation that you have. So, I still feel like outside of Cucalores, anything that we could do to create a situation where North Carolina will always be able to be producing film and television is a good idea.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. A lot of smart people in this town and around this town too that could help figure that out.
For sure.
I love it. When have we missed Cucalores this year?
No.
It's coming up, right?
It's coming up, yes.
So we're filming this as of October 18th, 2024.
Right.
So it might release in time, but when is Cucalores this year?
I believe it's November.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, we needed to schedule it after the election, right?
Yeah.
Just wanted to get that out of the way. So I'm sorry, Dan Brawley. I think it's like the 14th through the 20th, or it's kind of the mid to late.
Yeah, November 20 to 24 this year.
So I got the
downtown Wilmington.
Right.
Okay, yeah, awesome. Yeah, Cucalores, always a good time. If you're coming into town for Cucalores, don't break any drywall.
No, break a lot of drywall, actually.
Yeah, break a lot of drywall. Yeah, right, exactly.
Break all the drywall you can find and
you
give
go
them my
Frankie
number.
Muniz on the Hotel Ballast down here. You might not ever get invited back, but Christian's business will benefit
I'll look at it
from
after you. I got you. Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Last thing we like to do, how do people get in touch with you if they need your services?
Yes.
What's the best way for people to interact with PatchMaster?
Well, there are numerous ways they can interact with PatchMaster. Give us a call, 910-777-7519. Simply go online and just type in PatchMaster. Either our website will come up or you'll see our Google ads. We run ads on Facebook. We run ads on YouTube. We are literally all over the place. So really easy to get a hold of us, and I'll be very happy to take anyone's call.
Good, and they will get to you quickly, right? They'll get the Saturday morning if you have to.
I will pick up the phone. Yes, I do. When it's your own business, you're willing to do stuff perhaps you wouldn't be willing to do for somebody else. So yes,
exactly.
I will take that call over the weekend.
So if you get in a bind, I mean, it's college football season, it's NFL. If your team doesn't win, Panthers are terrible, so you should not be punching holes in your drywall over a Panthers game right now.
For sure. And let me know. I'll bring some Gatorade if you need it. That's part of the customer service.
Yeah, if you're a Cowboys fan that moved to Wilmington, maybe you have another reason to get mad about stuff. I don't know. That would be a fun. That's what you should put on your social media is do a poll of the sports fan bases that punch the most drywall.
Right. Well, also, this is a golfing town. So outside obviously the courses that are all over town, there was one instance where this was a student, and I was just. They'd gotten in touch with me and said, well, we've got some holes in the wall, which is a pretty pedestrian thing to call up and say to me. But I showed up, and it was a room not much larger than this one that just had dozens of little holes.
They were hitting golf balls in there?
They were swinging, they were practicing their drive in their 10 by 15 room, and just tons of holes in the wall.
Did they didn't have like a net or anything? They didn't even try. They're just we're hitting this at the drywall.
I think they were a few bevs into it, and such precautions deemed unnecessary.
That's another interesting thing that we need to study: the alcohol to drywall repair need ratio.
Right.
One is fueling the other. I know that it is.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's. Do I hope people drink too much alcohol or really bad storms come and wreck their homes? I guess the former is a bit more benign than the latter.
Yeah, right? Yeah, God, you're a tough guy to run into, Be like, hey, did you get drunk and put your friend through the drywall? Or did we have a hurricane?
Yeah. Right.
But no, if obviously the easier stuff is, hey, I'm moving out. I've got some holes in the drywall from pictures and stuff like that. So it's not all bad. You don't only call Christian because something went wrong and you've got to repair some drywall in your house.
But listen, even the worst case scenario, by the time we're finished, we're going to, the thing that I've found in doing this business and coming to it from the outside, not having had experience in contracting or construction, is that, we consistently show up on time. My guys do outstanding work. They're super talented. And we always clean up after ourselves.
Yeah.
And we do that consistently. And I have found that by doing that consistently, people are willing to give us a call and let us come into their homes, which is a very personal thing.
Yeah.
And take care of that really horrible eyesore that they've got going on right there. So
man, I wish I had met you 5 or 6 weeks ago. Whenever we had that first big rainstorm, is at our house. We're doing new construction. I told you out there. We finally finished it and moved into it. Thank God. But right around that first rainstorm, there was like an H bolt in the roof that was just popped up, and just enough water was getting underneath the shingle that came through the drywall ceiling of the laundry room. And so we're scrambling, getting plastic up because we put really nice cabinets and countertops in there. My wife is like, fix it. But the drywall crew that we had that came in and repaired it, I mean, their work is very good, but they were filthy.
Yeah.
Like,
it is a messy business. Yeah. It's a messy business. And so we are very, very conscious of that. So, our, part of what we do with every job is we make sure we clean the place to if it's not cleaner, at least as clean as it was when we got there. Particularly try to make it cleaner than it was before. Because we know it's drywall. We know it's dusty. My guys use HEPA filtered dust extractors connected to their sanders to reduce the amount of dust that goes around. So again, that's part of the service. Yeah, it really is. And cleaning up, even if we're there for a multi-day job, we're still going to clean up and put our things to the side, so you can still live in your home comfortably.
Well, those are the little things about home service-based businesses that really think about the customer experience more than like, okay, there's a hole, I got to go fix it, and then I got to get on to the next one. So good on you guys for thinking about customer service and what people want when you're in their home and how to leave it after you're done.
I oftentimes feel like the one-eyed guy in a room full of blind people because it's extraordinary how my competition just really struggles to do these things. Where to me it seems to be so obvious. And I guess there's one other thing I've really enjoyed about this experience. I must admit, I never, as a young person or younger person, saw myself as being a business owner. or a manager of people.
Yeah.
But I've come to really enjoy that aspect of the business. And an idea that I've borrowed from my friend Ben Freeberg, who runs Thrive Family Dental, is treating not just your customers, but also your employees with care, dignity, and respect.
Yep.
So, something I've learned about this industry is that unfortunately, people who are painters, people who are drywall finishers, oftentimes they work for these large production crews. And frankly, they're treated quite terribly.
Yep.
They're just cogs in a wheel. And so with my employees, I value them as much as I value my own family, and I treat them that way. And they're not accustomed to it, for one thing. So it's kind of a breath of fresh air to kind of work at PatchMaster.
Yeah.
Because, again, I'm going to treat you with respect. I understand you're a human being, and I'm going to work with you as best we can to provide the best service, because we're all going to benefit.
Yeah.
If this company is successful and we grow, we all get to, we have security in our jobs. We get paid well. I pay my employees very, very well, because I need good people to do good work as they're representing me. Right?
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed being able to not just help the people of Wilmington by way of providing a great service. I love being able to employ really good people and help them, raise their families and pay their mortgages and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and of course, that care, dignity, respect applies to my work colleagues as well, the people who own the businesses that I work with, and of course, the customers as well. So, act and spread positivity, and we will come back to you.
It's good core values and happy employees, grateful employees.
Yes.
Equals happy and grateful customers too.
That's
as
right.
well. So
That's right.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like, take care of the internal customer as well as you take care of the external customer, and those hands tend to wash each other.
Precisely.
Awesome. That's Christian Clavadetscher from PatchMaster Drywall Repair. I'm Rob Rens with Signal Fire Media. Thank you so very much for joining us on this episode of the Connect Cape Fear podcast. Until next time, go out and explore this beautiful place that we call home, support great local small businesses, and go out and do great things. And we'll talk to you next time on the Connect Cape Fear podcast. Thanks.
Thank you.